and she noticed the scars, and she asked me about that and said what happened, and she put a butterfly sticker on my arm and told me that it's going to make me feel better and that she wants me to get better. And in that moment, I realized, you know, I'll always be here for her because she's my little cousin and I love her dearly. So in that moment, I made a vow to, like, never hurt myself again.
Well, okay, so what makes this your favorite world? What do you like about it?
Well, personally for me, in that little spot, in the dip, uh, I
Oh.
had a,
Oh, wow.
yeah, there's mirrors here.
No, I see like something satanic down there. I see like a cross, a red X. You see that?
Where do you see that at? I don't see it.
Oh, what is that? Is there a basement?
If there is, I don't know about it. I
Oh,
don't know how
well,
to get there.
well, you know, you'll probably see this in the video. What is that?
Probably will.
There's something below this. Wait, what if,
Oh,
can I do
wait,
this?
wait.
No, I can't see it there.
Under
Okay.
the... Hold on, wait. Let me...
Yeah, so I'm looking between the cracks right here.
Okay.
Try not to fall.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, what is that?
I don't know.
I thought it was some secret because, you know, you were talking about, you know, your typical grunge stuff. So I'm like, ooh, what's down there?
I forgot, that's right.
Okay, so anyways, don't worry. Trusty Henry, the editor, will piece things together. So why do you like this place?
Right there in that little seat area,
Okay,
I
yeah.
had a really long conversation with some strangers about, like, personal life and just, you know, talking about how I should go about handling things with my dad. Because my dad is a big problem in my life.
Okay, so, well, dang. Let's try not to jump into it too quick. but so it sounds like you have some good memories in this place of, you know, people that you know, are fond of, and you share some good conversations. So, I mean, like, nothing else about it?
Just like nothing like...
Not this beautiful city aesthetic at all with all the pretty colors. You're just like, no, I like that couch over there. You know, it's comfy and...
Yeah, I like couch. But no, I do like this. I live in the country, so seeing sights like this is just breathtaking to me.
Breathtaking. You're breathtaking. Okay.
I'm gonna punch you in your mouth.
Alright. Forgot to turn nameplates off. That's okay. We can always blur it out.
Blur it out or something.
Yeah. Okay, well, they're hidden now. So, sorry, Henry. I'm really trying. Oh,
You're
man.
struggling, man.
It's like there's a lot going on. I'm like, well, I gotta do you know, coaching stuff. You know, talk to you. I got this mic right in front of my face. I have VR headset on. I'm doing my best. Okay. All right. So
You're doing amazing, sweetie. Just keep going.
thanks. God. Okay. So, what would you like everyone to know you as? Like, so you don't have to give an exact name. You can give a nickname. You know, like, so what would we call you?
Elaina.
Okay, Elaina. Obviously met you before, but nice to meet you. So
Nice to meet you too.
age. You don't have to give same thing. You don't have to give the exact, but you know, age range that we're working with, because this is also helping to be help relate people to relate to each other.
Early 20s.
Are you okay? Early 20s. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Where were you born, and then where do you live now?
Born in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Still live in Texas.
Okay. And what languages do you know? Obviously, you have the English, but is there any that you might be learning?
Oh, I grew up speaking both Spanish and English.
Oh, are you fluent in both?
No,
No.
with Spanish, with Spanish, it's more, I know little words here and there,
Hmm.
and because I grew up with it, in my head, I cannot use any other word than that word
Mm.
in Spanish for the thing. So, like, okay, potatoes. I would just call them papas because that's what
Ah,
I've always known them as.
okay.
Anything that's made of potatoes is just papas.
Oh, that's really interesting. So you got that early learning association. So like because this is what you learned it as, it's puffs. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's really.
Like I wouldn't call coffee coffee. I always call it café con leche.
Mm.
That's just what I've always known it as.
So if you're sitting with your friends and all of a sudden you say that and they're like, wait, you speak Spanish? And you're like, no, I just that's just what I call coffee.
Totally. I'm pre-med. I do, however, want to be a coroner. And if I can't be a coroner, I can go to mortuary school. And I could probably get an apprenticeship with there's a family who lives across the street from me who owns a large mortuary company in my hometown,
Hmm.
and I could always get in with them.
Okay. So you had an initial interest in becoming a doctor, or did you sort of need some type of forensic background before you would become a coroner?
I would have to. I feel like I would have to do like forensic science to get into coroner work.
Hmm.
And depending on where, like toxicology or ballistics, I would have to go into those kind of studies.
Okay. Interesting.
But I want to be like just a coroner. And like I said, that doesn't work out in mortuary school. It's always a thing.
Okay. Yeah. Again, following that grunge theme. Bodies. Or no, actually, what do they call it? What do they call it again? There's a fancy name for it when it's like
Corpses,
not corpse. It's a medical term. The oh, crap.
cadaver.
Cadaver. Yes. Cadaver. Okay. So okay, I'm really sorry to do this to you. Most controversial
It's
and
fine.
difficult question to possibly ask. You might fall off this railing here, so hold on. Okay. Ready? All right. What's your favorite
Ready?
color?
Purple.
And why is it purple?
Um, Purple is a color associated with royalty, and growing up, I was the only girl born into my family,
Hmm.
so I was always called Princesa, La Reina, anything associated with that. So
So
I've
basically, you
always
think you're better than
I've always
everyone
had purple
else.
things. Totally.
Okay. Actual, a little bit deeper question is, so two more. What brings you to be your best self or at your best?
Really, it is to show other people if I can do it, you can do it. If I can do anything great, you can do anything great.
So I,
Try to lead an example.
yeah. So definitely being like a strong role model. So leading by example. Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Hmm.
Okay. And then the last question before we can just get into it is scale of 0 to 10. How truthful are you with yourself? 0 being I lie to myself all the time. 10 being, you know, I never lie or, I'm always truthful with myself.
Mm, I'll be completely honest. It's gonna be probably about a 4 to a 5.
Mm, okay.
I don't like to be truthful to myself because I know the truth hurts, and
Hmm.
sometimes I just don't want to see it or hear it, so I just ignore it and push it back and just try
Yeah.
to obliviously go on through life.
Hmm. Okay. That'll definitely probably hold context later, but I really like the honest answer. Um, All right. Well, just for a bit of context, so we typically talk about, so far it seems to be like 2 to 4 problems. And, we just
Mm-hmm.
dive into it, talk about it, vent it, maybe talk about solutions or, things like that. But what would you like to talk about first, whether a problem you're dealing with now or in the past? Either one.
A lot of problems. Hard to pick just one.
99 problems.
Probably would be. It sounds so stereotypical and like such a girl thing, but like my issues with my dad, because every girl has daddy issues, but like I wouldn't say I have serious daddy issues, but it's just due to circumstances, he was like never in my life. Not for like a bad reason. It was just he worked 2 hours away in Houston, and so he was gone all day. I wouldn't see him until maybe 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, and by that time I was asleep. And that was from infancy to really now. He's never really been there. And so because of that, I never really developed a bond with him.
So what I'm kind of hearing
from I
that...
kind of...
Oh, sorry.
Oh, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so, he was there, but he wasn't there. By the time he'd get home, you'd be asleep, and then you wake up, he's back at work, and then, because of other, responsibilities and obligations, he'd basically just be out of the house. And were you alone, or was there anyone else?
It was always me, my mom, and my little brother. But my mom did most of the heavy stuff. It's always me, my mom, and then my little brother. My mom kind of, in a way, was a single parent because she had to raise me and my little brother by herself. She worked 2 jobs because my dad, I don't want to say he hid money from us, but we didn't see the money he made.
Yeah.
And it really, and from like and growing up, my parents fought all the time, and they didn't hide it either. It was always a screaming match between the 2 of them. And so because of that, growing up, I kind of developed an animosity towards my dad because of it. I'm so close with my mom. I'm protective of her now. And anytime anything bad happens to her, I get really upset. And I want to protect her because she's protected me for so long. So whenever they fight, I tend to get more angry towards him than her, even if she did something wrong. Because in my mind, my mom can't do wrong because she's raised me. She's put so much effort into my life to be there for me. And my dad was just gone all the time, so grown to resent him.
So, I think, so what comes to mind is, see, I'm hearing just, he was never around, and then when he was, it was only for a short time, and on top of that, it was typically something negative, arguing with your parents, or, but I would want to maybe explore, or just, talk about, like, so, like, your one-on-one interactions with him, was there any, or was it just you tried to make time to see him and he said, no, I'm busy, or what did that look like?
So on the weekends, he wouldn't work. He worked Monday through Friday. But on the weekends, he would do things around the house, like fix things and stuff. And I would try to help him. I would try to learn as much as possible, to fix things. So when he's not around and they need to be fixed, I can do it. I can take on that role of, mechanic or whatever. And we would spend a little time together fixing things. He would show me things, but then he would get mad because things are old and they need to be replaced, but we don't have the money to do it. And then he would get mad at me because I'm taking all the money because I get my nails done, I get a pedicure done, I get waxing, I go and I do girly things, you know? And he would get mad about it, yell at me for taking all the money, making him, you know, lose money, and then we would fight, and then I would leave. And I ended up finding a way to fix things myself.
So I take it, you know, your mom, you know, gave you this money, and he basically just, rather than talking to her about it, he just went straight for you. Now it sounds like there's a whole lot more to be resentful toward him about. Sounds like, you know, not only was he wasn't around, but every time that he would just unpleasant, and
He was just angry.
You know, just angry
and like, and I will admit, I'm spoiled rotten. I have gotten anything I've asked for. But the thing is, realistically, I can say, I mean, I remember this as a kid. I would say something is cute, and then the next day it'd be in my room. You know, a long time ago, I think it was maybe like 7. There was the furry friend butterscotch horse with this like a pony that you could sit on and it'll do things, you know, like robot animals. Real popular in the early 2000s. I had one. I didn't really ask for it. I didn't want it, but I got it. I had a full decked out play kitchen set in my bedroom. I didn't want it, but I got it. You know? I got a flat screen TV when I was like 6. Didn't want it, didn't need it, but I got it. You know? They would give me things I didn't ask for, and then I'd get mad that they were spending money on it.
When you say they, was this mostly just your mother, or did your dad also get you some of these things at some point?
My mom was the one that really gave me everything. Anything I've ever gotten was through her. You know, she's always been like, I want you to have the best of whatever. You know, if I want something, or if they think I need it or want it, she will get me the best. Now, there have been some things my dad got me. My computer that I use for school. Because I'm in college, I need a laptop. He got me a really nice laptop. But he would sometimes get mad because it cost money, and that's money I'm missing out of my paycheck. But I didn't really ask for it. Because we have a perfectly good computer in our study. I could have used that.
You're kind of talking about your dad just really not being there, and then when he was, just it's not very pleasant. And then sounds like just a bit of broken communication between him and your mother, and he just sort of it's just seeming like he was very angry like all the time, and there's probably some things that he never told you guys, you know, like why he was so upset. So I'm kind of wondering, like, was he the macho kind of dad of, like, you know, oh, always got to be tough, don't talk about feelings, stone cold, stoic? Yeah. So the only emotion you'd ever see out of him was just anger.
Anger, aggression, just anything really negative. I've only ever seen it from him. I think the only time I ever saw him get emotional was when I graduated high school. And I went off, I immediately went from high school to college to go to med school. And like, when I graduated high school, he got emotional. When I got my acceptance letter to my college, he got emotional. You know, when I came home from high school one day and said, hey, I got a Letterman jacket, he got emotional. You know, accomplishments like that, he would get emotional. But everything else was just anger.
When you say emotional, like each of those times, was it like sad, about to cry? What did it look like?
Mm, he would be happy. He'd smile and he'd congratulate me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, those times he would actually like hug me.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't really touch me, like not touches, like he wouldn't hug me or anything, you know, but normally. But in those situations where I would do extremely well, he would, you know, be physically affectionate with me. He would,
Mm-hmm.
you know, hug me, kiss my cheek, tell me good job.
Oh man, I'm so tempted to go into counselor mode, but you know, I have to be coach here. Disclaimer: this is not count. This is not. I'm not doing therapy right now. Oh please, Lord, nope. Um, okay, so instead, I'll be like, I'll ask something like, okay, so you know, those rare moments where your dad actually showed what I would, you know, imagine to be that, you know, he cares about you. Just so
Mm-hmm.
so those brief moments of, you know, like, oh hey, you're actually my dad, and you care. Um, and then the question that I had that came up was, you know, like, did your dad ever tell you that, you know, like he loved you, or that he was proud of you, or was it just quiet hugs and that, like, good job?
He would tell me he was proud of me and like
Mm-hmm.
hug me,
Mm-hmm.
and that was always it.
Mm. When you say that was always it, I sort of hear it was nice, but too short. Not enough.
They were always brief. There was never like a lingering hug. Or, you
Mm-hmm.
know, when you hug somebody and you wait for them to let go, it was never that. It was always, we hugged, and then he would immediately back off.
Because, you know, you talk about, you know, this kind of being like a problem of your life, right? And typically, you know, when we have problems, we would try and find solutions for them. Uh, but, you know, this obviously is a little bit more complicated. How has your dad's absence in your life affected you?
Um, well, it has caused me to, because I can't get attention from him here,
Mm-hmm.
I have gone and seek that attention from other men
Mm-hmm.
in negative ways. You know, any attention is good attention, you know.
Okay. So throughout your life, feeling, how would you describe that feeling, like as best as you can? Because your dad, you know, hasn't been around. I'm kind of hearing that there's been this feeling, or even a lack of a feeling, like something missing, like a void. Um, so
Yes.
would you be able to, unless that's it, to describe like what that feeling was like, and then what you did to try and appease the feeling, like in stories and detail?
Uh, it did feel like something was missing. It did feel like I wasn't getting the validation I needed. I didn't have a strong male figure in my life to guide me and support me. So, like I
Mm-hmm.
said, I seeked it out in other men, and that kind of led me to doing a lot of really bad things at a young age that no kid should have been doing.
I'd have to ask if you know what I mean. If you feel comfortable
Yeah, no, no,
sharing.
no. I totally do. So like when I was about 15, 16, I ran away from home for a bit to go live with some 20-something-year-old dude
Mm-hmm.
who I considered my boyfriend, who I was in love with, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and because of the fact that I was so emotionally just what's the word I'm looking for? I was so just in need of any kind of validation whatsoever. You
Like
know, I turned
trying to quench a thirst that was never ending.
yes. I was, the best way I could say is I was weak I went to an adult. I should not have done that. And he took advantage of that. He took advantage of me. But I didn't see it as that. I was, in my mind, I was like, this is love. He loves me. But, I should ask myself, what would a 20-something-year-old be doing with a 15, 16-year-old girl? I did a lot of things online, to fill in that void of, no man in my life cares for me. But these random strangers on the internet, these random strangers, grown adult strangers, care about me. So I fed into it. And I just spiraled down from there.
So what I'm kind of hearing from that is, because your dad wasn't around, and we think about, what does a dad do for his daughter? Well, he loves her, he validates her, he supports her, he's there for her. And well, while your dad did do that a little bit, it was definitely never enough, and not enough for you to really believe that he truly and wholeheartedly loves you. And you had this something inside you that was missing, and you were just trying to find some way to feel whole. And it sounds as though like this hunger became so fierce that the compulsion to go out and seek something that would fill this hole became greater and greater and greater, until eventually, I'd be bold enough to ask that one day you sort of just woke up and realized, like, what am I doing? Like, did it spiral? How did it spiral, and how far did that go?
It went from, I was like, I almost said I was 15 when I started doing this. I was 15, dating an 18-year-old. And then I went from 18-year-olds to 20-year-olds. And then from 20-year-olds, I went to, like, 30-year-olds, and so on and so forth. And I just I honestly did woke up one day in the bed of a stranger. I don't even know who this man was. He looked too old to be associating with me. And I just remember thinking, why am I here? What am I doing? I shouldn't be doing these things. And every morning I would tell myself that I'd be like, don't need to be here. But I'd always end up back in the beds of a stranger.
The unquenchable thirst. Never quite. Is it just because I say thirst? Like, oh, are you thirsty, bruh? Is that why?
Yeah.
Oh my
I'm
god.
sorry.
We need another analogy. It's like the bottomless pit, you're always falling and never quite, touching the ground. I don't know.
Raging fire that won't burn out.
Yeah. See, you know what I mean? I just kind of like unquenchable thirst, it just kind of...
we can keep using it. We can keep using it. It's fine.
You thirsty?
I gotta be more professional than this.
No, that's fine. No, we gotta, laugh a little bit at these things.
Lighten it up.
Yeah. Okay, so the defining moment was, and not only that, you'd actually had several, it sounds like, where you're like, man, I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't be doing this. Why am I still doing this? Why am I here? What is this? So
I would just, every time I would wake up and I'd just be like, girl, you should not be here. You should be at home. You should not be hours away in a random town with some man you don't even know. But then these men come into my life. They'd sweet talk me. They'd promise these things to me. And I'd fall for it every time. Because I want it. I want that. I want that stability. That's what I've been wanting. Something consistent. That's there all the time.
Yeah, I think that really hits it. Just there. Consistently. Reliable. Trust. Someone you could trust to be there. And your dad wasn't. So let's look at the the defining moment of the defining moment of the actual defining moment. So like, okay, what was the day that you actually woke up and you're like, ah, and then you're like, okay, this is it. You know, what was that day?
I would say I was 17. I'd be about 17 years old, 17, 18.
Mm-hmm.
And I had gone over to this guy's house. And again, he was much older. And we agreed it was just me and him.
Mm-hmm.
It was always going to be just me and that other dude. I never had anybody else join. He brought a buddy because his buddy wanted in. And I said no. And eventually they tried to force themselves onto me, but I managed to escape by busting a window. I'm not even kidding. It sounds so comical I think back at it now and it's like, I should have not done that. And like, I can see the day, I think I can see it happening right in front of me. And it was scary. Because I expected just one man to show up. But there were two. Tried to fight the best I could to escape because I didn't want it. And I did. And then I walked 30 miles back to my own house because I didn't have any other way to get there. And that was the day I was like, I gotta stop. I really, truly do gotta stop.
Yeah, just take that one in. No, I'm just saying, like, as a, just speaking to everybody watching, it's just, you think it's as simple as you're mad at your dad for not being there, whether you're, man or boy or girl, guy or gal, but to see it just evolve so heavily and lead into something like that, that's heartbreaking. It's heavy. It's tragic. And you had the good outcome too, because I was already kind of preparing for the worst. Things evolved, just over the few years of, you think it might not be that big of a deal for, a father to not be in his daughter's life, but just to see the void that it created. And you didn't know, what was going on, or like why you were really feeling this way. All you knew is that you just wanted something to be there, something consistent, stability.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until you almost potentially lost your life and had a very traumatic experience that you finally stopped trying to fill that void.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened next? You walked 30 miles home, and you go through your door, and then what happened from there?
I don't actually walk through. I broke my window. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I've been sneaking out at night.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I would wait till my parents were in bed. And they fall asleep pretty quickly. And they're heavy sleepers, so I would lock my door, pop my window open, and just crawl out. And whoever would come get me would pull into my driveway. Or I would walk so many miles to a place, a random house, and pretend that was my house.
Mm-hmm.
And they would go there and pick me up from my house.
Oh, okay. I see.
Mm-hmm. I had a plan. I thought this out pretty good,
Mm-hmm.
What as a teenager would. God, this is so. Anyway,
Are you okay? Like, do you need to?
Yeah,
stop?
I'm good. I'm good. But no, like that's what I did.
Mm-hmm. You finally broke the behavior, right? But did you still feel the void, you know, after that. You still felt it, but you sort of just shut it out and said, hey, I know this, I know I'm feeling this way, but I can't be doing this anymore.
Yeah.
So is the void still there?
It's still here. It's been a while. I've managed to control it. But every now and then, the urge to just run off with a random stranger gets appealing. But the way I combated the urges was through physical harm. I had done it before, years prior, because my parents, but my dad would get mad at me, but he wouldn't put his hands on me. Like, he wouldn't do anything to me. He would just get mad and yell at me. And I felt like I should be punished physically, but I didn't know how to. So I would resort to physically harming myself. But the way I would control the urges before would be just to hurt myself in some way and be like, you can't do that. You need to stop. Ignore it completely and just move on.
So my mind kind of got something twisted real quick. So to stop the urges of going out with a stranger, you physical harm?
Mm-hmm.
And when your dad also yelled at you, you did the same thing, physical harm?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I thought I got that, like, mixed up. So how long did you physical harm for?
In total, probably about, let's say maybe, let's see, I started this when I was like 7, for about 10 years. It was never anything like, and I say this trying to like diminish, not to diminish it, but to be like, it was never anything like serious. There was no intention of ending my life. It was just a reprimandation. I think that's the right word.
Yeah, kind of
It's
like
just a way to
a more
control it.
heavy form of spanking, kind of in a way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what helped you stop the self-harm? Because if your solution to filling the void or stopping the behavior was to, well, do another behavior that's also harmful, was there a way that you found to kind of stop it all?
So, my mom has a brother, and he had a son with a woman years ago. We didn't know he existed until fairly recently. And that son has a daughter. She's 3 years old, and they came down from Minnesota to visit us, to get to meet us, right? And I've always taken on the role of the babysitter, the parent of all the little cousins. So naturally, I just scooped her up in my arms and we went off to go play in a room. And she noticed the scars and she asked me about that and said what happened. I told her I just had an accident and it wasn't anything serious. And she put a butterfly sticker on my arm and told me that it's going to make me feel better and that she wants me to get better. And in that moment, I realized, this little kid's going to look up to me because, I'm here for her now and I'll always be here for her because she's my little cousin and I love her dearly. And I want her to love herself and not experience what I experienced. So in that moment, I made a vow to never hurt myself again, to keep her safe, to show her that's not the way to go. It's not what you should do when you're upset or when you have emotions that are too big for you to understand.
Oh man.
too much?
No, it's not too much for me, although I definitely could have cried if I wanted to. It was the part where you said, put a little butterfly sticker on that. I was like, wow, that's one of the most endearing things I've ever heard for something like that.
Yeah.
So,
I cried. I really did when she did that.
Yeah, I can imagine. So, sounds like we're a bit, you know, to sort of encompass this whole issue, you know, starts with you're little and, you know, you want to be with your dad. You want a male figure in your life and you want to spend time with him, but he's working, he's not around. When he is, it's only for a little bit. When you do see him, it's kind of a little bit of negative reactions. And when he does do something good for you, it's few and far between and just leaving you feeling just ever so empty. And as a result, you started getting older, and when you became interested in guys, it felt like a grand opportunity to fill that void. And one thing led to another, down, you know, into the quicksand, or one step, then the next. And eventually, you know, you started waking up. What am I doing? Why am I here? And that wasn't enough to break you out of it until your life was almost threatened. And from then on, you stopped going out with, you know, different guys, different men. But to replace that, you know, came in the physical harm, which also wasn't helpful, but it was better than completely putting your life in harm's way. And then eventually, with the love and support of someone close to you, they confronted you on it, and from then on, you vowed to never do it again, out of the love for someone else. So that leaves us at how to fill that void of not having the love of, you know, one of our parents. And this is tricky because, you know, not trying to do therapy, but, you know, like, from a coaching standpoint, it would be like, well, typically, you know, you have barriers, and, you know, you find solutions, and maybe you change up your strategy. So I would say, kind of like I've talked with other people, is, well, you know, it sounds like, you know, love is something, or love, or just having consistent, strong support, you know, of a male figure, whether I maybe say friend or a romantic relationship, would be what it, you know, sounds like you need. But at the same time, you don't want to go back to that risky behavior of just going out with anybody.
Yeah.
So I think the goal would be to pick the right person, someone who's trustable, obviously reliable, and consistent. And seeing how you mentioned, you know, like a history of kind of going out with these guys and not really questioning it, that would lead me to ask, what are the qualities of a good, trusting, loving, reliable partner? What does that person look like? And, like, what do they do?
They respect boundaries. There have been times the men I was with would not take no for an answer. And so I kind of just gave in and just said whatever, do whatever. you know? They would respect boundaries, listen to me when I say I don't want to do something or I don't want to be somewhere. You know, they'd be understanding and patient.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, they, I obviously have issues, but it takes a little bit for me to, I don't want to say take a little bit for me to open up, but it's just to really expose the most vulnerable parts of myself takes a lot. It mentally drains me and it fills me with fear because there are parts of me that are not so pretty.
Mm-hmm.
They're ugly and disgusting, and so exposing myself in that way, I would really have to trust them. You know?
Yeah. So I'm definitely hearing a lot of patience and warmth to where you would feel comfortable enough to trust them, and it sounds like I'm hearing that you would fear that they would leave once you share some of these darker shades of your soul.
Mm-hmm.
And I would personally say that, everybody has their darker shades, and that, we have to put in some effort to overcome them. As a great Skyrim quote from Paarthurnax the dragon would say.
And not Skyrim.
So he said, what's better, to be born good or to overcome our evil through great effort? And I'd say that everyone has a little bit of, evil and darkness, darker shades within themselves, and it sounds as though you've put in a lot of great effort to overcome it. So if you were, you know, aware of what a good partner looks like and recognize that they have, a good sense of maturity, that they would be patient and compassionate enough to, hear and for you to reveal some of the darker parts of yourself. Because they certainly
Mm-hmm.
aren't perfect either. So now that we know what a good partner looks like, what would be some things that you would do differently now that you didn't do back then?
I wouldn't jump to do the first thing my brain tells me to do.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely would have more self-control. I'd really think things through before I actually did them.
Mm-hmm.
Because with these things that I did, I didn't think about them at all. Here's a man dangling a shiny object, in my face. I'll give you all the love you want, all the support you want. Just follow me. I'd jump on that the first chance I could.
Mm-hmm.
Back then. Now, I definitely would step back and think about it and be more aware of what I'm getting into.
So put the two and two together, and we have a potential goal and solution in mind. Is the first thing that always comes down to is us. As much as many people around the world really like to hate this part, we do have accountability in what we do. The finger needs to point
Mm-hmm.
toward the inside, us first. So we look at what can you do, and you just said it. Don't jump at the first opportunity. Try to manage your emotions and that unquenchable thirsty void. Try to manage that in healthy ways so that you aren't going back to what you had done before. And once you know do sort of meet someone and you're vetting them, evaluating them, seeing if they're a good person, a good fit, you kind of look at, well, are they patient? Do they respect my boundaries? Are they warm? Do I feel like I could show them not just like the real me, but all of me, good and bad.
Mm-hmm.
And when
Because I go through life. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
I put on this air of like, narcissistic. I'm better than everybody else in the room.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of mentality. Because genuinely, I don't like myself. I hate myself.
Mm-hmm.
I truly do hate the way, and not even just like, I hate the way I look. I think I'm ugly, but it's just, I don't like the things I've done, so it negatively affects me mentally.
Mm-hmm.
So to combat that and not make sure no one else sees it, I pretend to make people think I think I'm better than them. I pretend to have this air of narcissistic arrogance, kind of mentality going on.
Oh yeah, oh my god, I called it, going back to the favorite color of purple. Well, actually, no, that was the other thing. But yeah, oh yeah, look at me, Miss Princess. I'm better than everybody else.
Well, no, that was because, I was called Elaina, the queen, or princesa, and, I was the firstborn female into the family, so it's a huge thing because it's all been guys.
So bow to me, peasants, you are beneath me.
It was such a big thing that, like, family from Mexico came up to see us, to see me, and anytime they called, they would always ask about me. They'd always ask, how's La Reina? How's the princess? How is the favorite? I was automatically dubbed the favorite.
Not the favorite. Uh-oh, don't do that, guys.
But I was automatically dubbed the favorite by my grandfather. My grandfather never had favorites. He, loved everyone equally.
Special.
As a kid, when I was a little kid, he would cut grass, and none of the grandkids ever got to mess with him when he was cutting grass. But then there I'd be, my big old headphones, earmuffs, my little sunglasses, and a little hat, and I'd sit on his lap and steer the lawnmower around.
Oh, that's a cute.
He'd carry me everywhere. He'd carry me everywhere. He'd do things for me. He'd make me my snacks. My grandfather loved me dearly.
Oh, that's a really interesting point there. So your grandfather was there for you. But how often is the question?
Okay. Then this leads into another problem.
Oh no, okay.
My dad is white. My mother is Mexican. For some reason, he never liked her family. I'm so sorry.
Looks like the dog agrees. I'm pretty sure people are gonna say something in the comments.
Probably. He's a beagle. I love my dog. I love my dog so much. Anyway, Dad's white, Mom's Mexican. Dad never liked her family, and her family tried to like him, but he was so always just, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be around you guys. So they just stopped trying.
Was he racist?
That's what I want to know. That's what I want to know. If I ever spoke Spanish in the house, he'd always give me like a dirty look. Okay? Going back to what I was saying. There are words that I don't say in English because I grew up only saying them in Spanish. For example, if I were to tell someone, if someone asked me, where's the ketchup? I would say, oh, mira, look, behind you. Mira meaning look. I would say it I really would say it twice, but like, mira behind you. I would always say it. You know, I never would say look behind you. I would just
Spanglish.
yes. You know, there are things I would say because growing up, I was with my grandparents often. I was with my grandparents, with my mom, and they all speak Spanish. So, growing up, like I said, I would associate things only as Spanish, you know. So, and if I said them around my dad, he would give me like a dirty look, like, "Why are you saying this?" You know.
So,
And
okay.
I think it really hurt.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
I'm just saying, so, like, just what I'm sort of imagining in my head is, okay, so he had this thing that he wouldn't openly talk about or say, this thing about you saying Spanish and this thing about being around your mom's side of the family. And as a result, did this lead to him disapproving of you spending time with them?
I think so. My grandmother, before COVID hit, she had 3 heart attacks. She had to have a quadruple bypass surgery. They took a vein out of her leg and put it in her heart. You know, it's a whole thing, right? I love my grandmother. I love her dearly. You know, she's been my best friend. Her and my mom both would take me to the mall on the weekends to go shopping. I always get a new outfit because of her. I care about her a lot. And when she had her heart attacks, I wanted to be at the hospital all the time. You know, I wanted to be there to hold her hand. I wanted to be there when she woke up. I wanted to be there just all the time, right? And anytime my mom would go, and it would always be late at night, I'd put some clothes on and I'd tell my mom, I'm gonna go with you. And then my dad would always look really mad that I was going. He didn't like it.
Man, of all the stuff I've ever heard, yeah, don't see your dying grandmother. You, yeah.
Yes.
Like,
I mean, she's fine. She's better now.
Yeah. Well, thank God.
It's been, let's see, it's been about, I want to say, it's been about a year. Now she walks like a mile every day.
Oh my God. Oh. I mean, I don't know her, but I'm proud of her.
She's doing so much better, and, you know, if you were to look at her, you would never have guessed she had a heart attack. Or any, for that matter.
So, wrapping back to the second problem you had said, as far as seeing your grandfather, what happened to prevent you from seeing him?
Well, first it was always, we lived too far away from them, and then we ended up moving closer. Now we live, like, down the street from them, right? And before, I used to just walk down there, because it's about a quarter of a mile, it's not that far. I can walk it every day. I go visit, and I come home, and my dad would get mad that I was gone. So, there would always be chores to do around the house that were always meaningless, and, you know, there'd be no point to them. He would enforce them because it kept me home, because I wasn't allowed to go out after dark.
Hold on. I just picked up on something. Okay, oh, dang it. Is this... Oh, okay. So I have a question of, like... So I'm hearing, yeah, so your dad assigned, like, just meaningless chores. He just didn't want you to go over there. But, naturally, I'm thinking, jealousy. Was there something you may have picked up on where your grandfather was around, your dad was around, and he saw how you enjoyed his company? Was there anything like that ever happened?
Yes, totally. Okay. I Okay, so as a kid, every kid can't say certain words. As a little kid, my favorite snack was hard-boiled eggs. Don't ask why. I just really liked
Oh,
hard-boiled
trust
eggs.
me, that's pretty common for the past few people I've met.
Really?
Yeah, actually, more common than you think.
I didn't know that. But I would not say a boiled egg. I would say a bowling egg.
Mm.
Right? And my grandfather, not only is he Mexican, he also grew up in Louisiana, so he also has that Cajun Creole kind of accent.
Okay.
So anytime he ever spoke, I would repeat the word and it'd be funny. So like golden egg was always one. Peanut butter on a poon instead of a spoon, it was a poon.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, we would always, and those were like our jokes between us
Mm-hmm.
that we would do because I was around him so much.
Mm-hmm.
I would always mimic what he said because it was funny. Because look at Grandpa, he's speaking with a funny accent, you know, and that would be our jokes. And I didn't have that with my dad. And anytime I ever mentioned those jokes or my grandfather with my dad present, I could like physically see him get a little upset.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay, so before I go on, so you have your dad not being there, and then your grandfather, issue that we're talking about right now. Are there other
Mm-hmm.
things that you feel like you would wanna share to know if we should do another session?
No, I really think that's it.
Okay, so we can just go ahead and wrap this up then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so jealousy. So maybe I mean, we both got baited, right? The obvious thing would probably be racism, right? Just like not wanting to be around a Hispanic family because he's white, But after kind of listening to that for a second, I was just like, oh, you know what? I wonder. And now you
I
kind of
mean, he
confirmed
probably
it.
could be.
He could. Yeah, you're right.
I, I,
He could be. But
and as much as I say, me and my dad have these issues, truly, honestly, at the end of the day, I don't want to see him as the villain.
mm-hmm. Yeah,
He's
no,
my
it's
dad, and I appreciate all things he's done. He worked 2 hours away to afford.
mm-hmm. To
Because the
pay the
time we
bills.
owned two
Yeah.
houses. Yeah.
Yeah, no, see, it's never that we would ever want to paint the people in our life as villains, because when you look beyond the veneer, the superficial, the tip of the iceberg, and you start exploring the depths, you find out that they had a bad upbringing, or they learned something that's not super helpful, or they had a hard time sharing their emotions. There's always some root cause of it. But the unfortunate part about it when people are sharing these stories is that it's too late a lot of the times. Um,
Hmm.
and I would sort of wonder how plausible it would be to, talk to him, sit down and talk to him about, what you felt and how you've been feeling, assuming he's still around and in your life today, and see, you know, if amends could be made.
I honestly have never tried to sit down and talk with him.
Hmm.
I always feared that he would just get mad that I was bothering him. And that's probably why I get so nervous and like not really. I like to say I have NPC energy. I don't talk to people unless they talk to me first.
You're in the background, and when somebody talks to you, hi, what's your name? Hi, I'm NPC.
Yeah. Certain people I'm like that, like new people, I do tend to like not speak unless spoken to out of fear of like being annoying or bothering people, you know.
So another way that, you know, not receiving that care from your dad has kind of affected you is that, well, probably at some points you wanted to tell him what you were feeling, and he just kept getting mad or angry and just telling you to, basically stop and go away.
Mhm.
So well, not seeing your grandfather as the one person who was, there for you emotionally, and I would, hypothesize that he might have been struggling to figure out how he could maybe be better, but was just so frustrated by life's distractions that he was exhausted and he just kind of got stuck and maybe gave up at one point. We don't know. Um, so,
Hmm.
so I'd say, you know, the goals would probably be aware of your behaviors and why they're happening. Be aware of like what a good partner looks like and what those qualities are, and as you said, not jumping on the first opportunity that you get. And then
Hmm.
then the third one, which would be a little bit scary. I mean, I would try an attempt to sit down and talk with your dad. Um, you're older now.
Yeah.
You're doing really well, and rather than having to go through what I'll say is pretty difficult dating scene these days, I think a nice alternative, or maybe it's the plan A, would be to sit down and talk with him and see, maybe once you clear the air and you guys make amends, that maybe he could start filling that void, and your heart will be healed. That's sort of
Yeah.
what I envision, anyways. But going back to all of these issues, so we'll start with your dad kind of not being there. What helped you get through this problem and through these difficult times? What helped the most?
Being with my mom, really spending time with her and her side of the family.
Mm-hmm.
Just doing activities to take my mind off my dad.
Mm-hmm.
If I didn't think about him, it didn't affect me as hard as it would have.
Mm-hmm. And on the flip side, what made things worse?
Probably, on a school night, laying in bed, and then hearing the front door slam shut, and then him and my mom arguing at the early hours of morning because dad was late getting home and traffic, and mom's complaining because he's not around, and dad's complaining because he has to work. She's, I work too, but I chose to work local. You chose to go off, because he could have chose a job in our town. He didn't have to go 2 hours away.
So then, I mean, that would kind of beg a different conversation. I imagine for, not being able to see your grandfather as much, and your dad sort of kind of keeping you away from him or being a barrier, that about the same things kind of helped and hurt the situation.
Yeah.
Okay. What would you like to say to everyone watching, whether just saying something in general, advice, guidance, what would you tell everybody?
I would tell everybody, just be careful of your actions. Don't do what I did. Be cautious of who you talk to and the people you let into your life, because you never really know what their intentions are until it's too late. Can I say one more thing to the audience?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Nene, for you get a whooping. This is Rachel Ray. Welcome to my kitchen. Welcome to the Wendy Williams show. Am spawn of Satan. Fear me.